a very warm welcome to you. It's Monday the 25th of May and this is RT International live from Moscow. Now our top story this hour as France starts to lift its quarantine. Churches and mosques have opened their doors to worshippers for the first time in 2 months. And with the weather getting warmer, people across France have flocked to parks to enjoy the sun. Well, this week is expected to be critical in determining whether now really is the right time to be lifting the lockdown. Well, let's cross live now to Charlotte Dubensky in Paris for us. Charlotte, good to see you. How's life changed in France since the measures were eased?
Well, restrictions have been easing in France now for the last 2 weeks, and this week is considered to be a critical week because it is 14 days since the easing of those lockdown restrictions started. And there is a sense of whether we'll find out whether that is working or not, if there's an increase in cases of COVID-19 cases or not. For the moment, generally, hospital admissions have been down day on day in France, and we know that there are fewer number of patients in intensive care than there were at the end of the big lockdown that we saw for 2 months, which started all the way back on March 17th on France. Now, there were fears that over the weekend, which just followed a public holiday in France, the warmer weather could see people coming out to different areas across the country, like you said, parks in some areas. Not here, though, in Paris, because parks are still restricted and still closed. And the idea was that they thought people would come out, they may not be respecting the barrier gestures, the social distancing, and therefore they might sort of be a way of transmitting the disease. I just want to give you a sense of some of the things that have been put in place here in Paris. This is along the side of the Seine, and as you might be able to see, there's fencing here all in one place, and this is part of those restrictions that they've tried to put in place to sort of not encourage people really to come out to places like this. Now, people did come out at the weekend, but it wasn't anywhere near as packed as we were feared or led to fear that it could. And I was speaking to people outside here on the Seine on Saturday who told me that they just have no fear about this idea of a second wave.
Social distancing is respected more or less, but I think that there are lots of people who think the virus won't affect them.
Personally, I'm not afraid, but I can see that people still are respecting the distance and stuff, so...
I'm pretty confident. I don't think anything is going to happen. We have completely overcome this. It's difficult to say, but in fact, I think this was done by some higher power. If the second wave is supposed to happen, it will happen. And unfortunately, we can't do anything about it.
I work at the hospital. I'm used to wearing masks, and I think that everybody should wear them. I don't want to believe in the second wave because I don't want to experience this life again, and I think people should be careful.
Well, calm here in Paris, but not calm elsewhere in France. There were scenes of protests in Saint-Nazaire, which is a place in the west of France near the city of Nantes, where the police had to intervene and use tear gas. Well, some more weakenings of the restrictions have already been announced. We know that from the weekend that religious services will now be able to take place. First time that that's happened in many, many weeks here in France. We're also due to get an announcement this week to find out where the French can take their summer holidays this year. But there's already been a suggestion from one government minister that that will be only here in France. Also, an announcement over the weekend that France will now impose a quarantine period on people travelling to France from the United Kingdom. That will be a 14-day period, and that is a reciprocal measure after that announcement was made also by the UK government from people going to the UK from France. And we've also had an announcement of more measures to try and help the economy here in France, which has been ailing. GDP, expected to be severely down this year as a result of that pandemic. Now the economy minister, one of the ministers, has said that social security payments of around 3 billion euros for those businesses affected by the COVID-19 pandemic will now not have to be paid. So France trying to do lots of different things to shore up its economy as it finds out this week whether these lockdown measures did work and whether the deconfinement measures now are working.
Charlotte, thank you for the update. That's RT Charlotte Dubensky live from Paris.